The golden light of 3 suns filtered through the crystalline dome of Queen Xylara's chamber. She moved slowly across the room, her 6 legs making soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. Her iridescent wings, once vibrant with colors that would dazzle any human eye, now hung limply against her back. Dulled by exhaustion and worry, Queen Xylara was the last of her royal line, ruler of what remained of the once mighty Cythurian Empire. Her people, insectoid beings with advanced technology and telepathic abilities, had spread across 12 star systems over thousands of years. Now they were reduced to a single planet, their final stronghold against the relentless Voidborn. She approached the viewing portal and gazed at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the blockade of Voidborn ships, was a small blue planet called Earth, a planet whose primitive inhabitants her ancestors had helped long ago during a devastating ice age. "Your Majesty," a voice called from the entrance. "The Voidborn have destroyed our last outpost on Zella Prime. Our refugees... None survived?" General Kraz, her most loyal commander, stepped into the light. His exoskeleton was cracked in several places, evidence of his recent battle. 2 of his forearms were bound in healing gel. "How many ships do we have left, Kraz?" the Queen asked, her multifaceted eyes never leaving the stars. 23 functional vessels, my Queen. Perhaps another dozen that could be repaired given time. He paused. Time we do not have. Queen Xylara nodded slowly. The Voidborn beings of pure energy that fed on life force had appeared at the edge of Cythurian space 5 cycles ago. At first, the Cythurians tried to communicate with them. That mistake cost them 3 colony worlds. The Voidborn didn't want to talk. They wanted to feed. "The Council awaits your decision, Your Majesty," Kraz said gently. "They believe surrender is our only option." "Surrender?" Xylara turned, her antennae quivering with emotion. "The Voidborn do not take prisoners, Kraz. They consume everything. Surrender means extinction." She moved to the center of the chamber where an ancient device stood on a pedestal. It had not been used for generations, a quantum resonance beacon capable of sending messages instantly across vast distances. "There is one option we haven't tried," she said. "One alliance we haven't called upon." General Kraz's mandibles clicked. "In surprise? The humans? But Your Majesty, they are primitive. Our last records show they had barely achieved spaceflight." "That was over 200 cycles ago," Xylara reminded him. "Who knows what they have achieved since then? And more importantly, they owe us a debt." Kraz stepped closer, his voice lowered. "A debt from 15,000 years ago? Your Majesty, they may not even remember us. Their lifespans are so short, their history so often lost." "Then we remind them," Xylara said firmly. She placed her upper hands on the beacon, feeling its cool surface respond to her touch. "What choice do we have?" "We face extinction either way." The general bowed his head in acceptance. "What shall I tell the Council?" "Tell them their queen is calling in an ancient debt." When Kraz left, Xylara closed her eyes and connected her mind to the beacon. It hummed to life, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed in rhythm with her thoughts. She composed her message carefully, translating her telepathic concepts into simple words that human minds could understand. "To the descendants of Earth," she began, "this is Queen Xylara of the Cythurian Empire. Our civilization faces extinction at the hands of beings we call the Voidborn. If you remember the ancient bond between our peoples, we beg for your aid. When your species faced the great ice, we offered warmth and knowledge. Now we ask for your help in return." She included star charts, coordinates, and data about the Voidborn. With a final pulse of energy, she sent the message hurtling through subspace, faster than light, across thousands of light years toward Earth. The effort drained her considerably. She sank onto her resting platform, wings trembling. Using the beacon required immense mental energy her people could scarcely spare, with the Voidborn lurking at the edges of their system, feeding on any life force they could detect. Was it worth it? She wondered aloud to the empty chamber. Hours later, as the smallest of the 3 suns set, Science Minister Vex entered the Queen's chamber. His thin frame seemed even more fragile than usual, his exoskeleton almost transparent with age. The beacon message was sent successfully, Your Majesty, he reported. But I must inform you, the energy signature may have been detected by the Voidborn. Their ships are changing formation. Xylera moved to the viewing portal again. Indeed, the dark shapes of Voidborn vessels were shifting, some moving closer to the planet. How long would it take for humans to receive our message? She asked. Instantly, through the quantum connection, Vex explained. But whether they understand it, whether they can respond, whether they even exist anymore, ... He left the sentence unfinished. How long can our shields hold against a direct assault? Vex's antennae drooped. 3 days at most, Your Majesty. The Voidborn have grown stronger feeding on our outer colonies. Xylera nodded slowly. Then we have 3 days to hope for a miracle from Earth. That night, as all 3 suns set and the Cythurian world was bathed in darkness, Queen Xylera remained by the viewing portal. The Voidborn ships were visible as dark spots against the stars, slowly tightening their blockade around the last Cythurian planet. In her private thoughts, she wondered if she had doomed her people faster by sending the message. Perhaps the energy used had only made the Voidborn hungrier. Perhaps humans no longer existed, wiped out by their own wars or natural disasters. Perhaps they had evolved beyond caring about ancient debts. She touched the viewing portal with one delicate hand. If you're out there, she whispered, if you remember us, please hurry. Light years away on a blue planet circling a yellow sun. A quantum receiver long dormant in an underground facility suddenly activated. A message from the stars began to transmit to very surprised human ears. Captain LaVarva Bennett yawned as she finished the last of her coffee. The night shift on the Earth Federation vessel Horizon was usually quiet. She had been captain for 3 years now, and the routine patrols at the edge of human space rarely brought excitement. Her short brown hair was slightly messy after the long shift, and her blue uniform jacket was unbuttoned at the collar against regulations. She was just about to head to her quarters when the alarm sounded. "Captain to the bridge," came the urgent voice over the intercom. "Captain Bennett to the bridge immediately." Lavra set down her empty cup and jogged through the corridors. Crew members stepped aside as she passed. When she arrived on the bridge, the normally calm atmosphere had been replaced with tense energy. "Report," she ordered, sliding into her command chair. Kevin Wright, the communications officer, turned from his station. His dark skin looked pale under the blue emergency lights. "Captain, we're picking up a signal unlike anything I've ever seen. It's coming through the quantum receiver." LaVarva frowned. The quantum receiver was experimental technology, installed on only 5 Federation ships. It had never actually received a message before. "Source?" she asked. "That's the thing, Captain," Kevin replied. "It's coming from the Arcturus sector, over 36 light-years away, and it's not human." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had explored dozens of star systems, but had never encountered intelligent alien life. There were ruins, fossils, evidence of civilizations long extinct, but never living beings with technology comparable to Earth's. "Put it on screen," Lavra ordered. The main view screen flickered. Strange symbols appeared, flowing across the screen like water. Then they shifted, transformed, as the ship's translation matrix attempted to decode them. Science Officer Diane Rodriguez leaned over her console. "The computer is analyzing the message structure. It appears to be ... requesting help." "Help?" Lavra stood up, moving closer to the screen. "From whom? For what?" "Working on it," Diane replied, her fingers flying over her console. She was the youngest officer on the bridge at 28, but her mind was sharper than most veterans twice her age. "The translation matrix is finding similarities to ancient Earth languages. That's strange." The symbols on the screen gradually formed into English text. The message was brief but clear. A civilization called the Cythurians faced extinction from beings called the Voidborn. They were calling on Earth to honor an ancient debt. "Check the historical database," Lavra ordered. "Find anything on Cythurians or this supposed debt." Information Officer Gary Thompson, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper beard, was already searching. Nothing in recent records, Captain? Expanding search to pre-Federation archives? Wait, I have something. He transferred the data to the main screen. Ancient cave paintings appeared, crude images of tall, insect-like creatures with multiple limbs and wings. Beside them were stick figures representing humans. The paintings showed the insect beings creating light and warmth, teaching humans to build shelters. These date back approximately 15,000 years, Gary explained, from the last great ice age. They've been found on multiple continents. Lavra studied the images. And these insect beings are supposed to be the Cythurians? The description matches the visual data included in the transmission, Diane confirmed. And there's more, Captain. Ancient legends from multiple cultures speak of sky insects or the winged ones, who came during the Great Cold and taught humans to survive. Most historians dismissed these as myths. Lavra paced the bridge, thinking. The Federation had strict protocols about first contact situations. But this wasn't exactly first contact if the evidence was correct. Humans and Cythurians had met. Thousands of years ago. Captain, Kevin spoke up from communications. There's coordinates in the transmission, and technical data about these void-born entities? Let me see, Lavra said. The screen changed to show dark, shifting masses of energy surrounding a planetary system. According to the data, these void-born consumed life energy itself. They had destroyed multiple Cythurian colonies and now threatened their homeworld. Threat assessment? Lavra asked. Tactical Officer Jack Nelson frowned at his console. If these readings are accurate, and if these voidborn ever reached human space, they could be an extinction-level threat, Captain. Lavra returned to her command chair and made her decision. Contact Fleet Command. Send them everything we've received. Tell them we're responding to a distress call from a potential ally against a common threat. Captain? Diane looked surprised. Are you sure? Protocol says nothing about repaying a 15,000-year-old debt, Lavra interrupted. If these Cythurians helped our ancestors survive the Ice Age, humanity might not exist without them. We owe them at least a response, she turned to the helmsman. Plot a course to these coordinates, maximum safe speed. That would take us years to reach them at conventional speeds, the helmsman protested. Then it's good we're not conventional, Lavra replied. Prepare the Fold Space Drive. The Fold Space Drive was the Horizon's most closely guarded secret experimental. Technology that could bend space itself, allowing travel across vast distances in weeks rather than years. It had never been tested over such a long distance before. Send a message back to the Cythurians, Lavra ordered Kevin. Tell them help is coming. Ask them how much time they have. As the crew prepared the ship, Lavra stared at the ancient cave paintings still displayed on one corner of the screen. Humans standing alongside insect beings, learning, surviving. 15,000 years, she murmured, and they still remembered us. Hours later, the Horizon was ready. Fleet Command had responded to Laura's report with surprising speed, authorizing the mission and diverting 2 additional ships to join them, the battle cruiser Defender under Captain Paul Martinez and the Science Vessel Discovery led by Captain Susan Baker. The 3 ships moved into formation at the edge of the solar system. The Fold Space Drive required significant distance from major gravitational bodies to function safely. All ships report ready, Captain, Kevin announced. Lavra took a deep breath. The Cythurians had responded to their message with urgent gratitude. Their planetary shields would fail in less than 3 days. If the human ships were going to help, they needed to arrive before then. Activate Fold Space Drive, Lavra ordered. Let's go repay a debt. The space around the 3 ships rippled like water. Stars stretched into lines of light. The Horizon, Defender, and Discovery vanished from the solar system, beginning their journey across 36 light-years of spacado save a civilization that had once saved humanity. The journey through Fold Space was unlike anything the crews had experienced before. Inside the ships, time seemed to stretch and compress. The view screens showed swirling colors that hurt the eyes if watched too long. Most crew members stayed in their quarters, fighting waves of nausea and disorientation. Captain Lavora Bennett spent the time studying everything they knew about the Cythurians and the Voidborn. The data was limited, but the threat was clear. The Voidborn were unlike any enemy humanity had faced, beings of pure energy that fed on life itself. On the second day of travel, Lavra called a meeting with the captains of the other two ships. Their faces appeared on the main screen of her ready room. "Our ETA is 26 hours, she said. "We need a plan before we arrive." Captain Paul Martinez of the Defender nodded. He was a tall man with a serious face and a military background. "My weapons teams have been analyzing the Voidborn data. Conventional weapons might disrupt their energy patterns temporarily, but won't destroy them. The Cythurians have been fighting them for months without success," Lavra pointed out. "We need something new." Captain Susan Baker of the Discovery leaned forward. She was older than the other two captains, with gray streaks in her dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. "My science team has a theory. The Voidborn exist partially in another dimension. That's how they can absorb energy so efficiently." "How does that help us?" Paul asked. Susan smiled slightly. "If we can identify which dimension, we might be able to force them fully into it or fully into ours. Either way, they'd be more vulnerable." Lavra considered this. "Work on it. We'll need options when we arrive." She turned to Paul. "The Defender has our strongest shields. You'll take point when we exit fold space." "Understood," he agreed. "We'll draw their attention while you make contact with the Cythurians." The meeting continued for another hour as they refined their approach. When it ended, Lavra felt a weight on her shoulders. 3 ships against an enemy that had already destroyed most of a spacefaring civilization. The odds weren't good. She was about to return to the bridge when Medical Officer Olivia Clark requested to see her. Olivia entered moments later, carrying a data pad. "Captain, I've been studying the Cythurian biological data," she said. "Their physiology is fascinating insectoid, but with surprising similarities to Earth life. Will we be able to help their wounded?" Lavra asked. Olivia nodded. "I believe so. Their blood chemistry is different, but they have similar proteins. I'm synthesizing treatments that should work for them." "Good," Lavra said. "Anything else?" Olivia hesitated. "Yes, according to the historical data, Cythurians are telepathic. They communicate primarily through pheromones and mind-to-mind contact. They learned our verbal languages when they visited Earth, but it's not natural for them." Lavra frowned. "Will that be a problem?" "It might make communication difficult. I've been working with Kevin from Communications on a translation matrix. That accounts for their thought patterns." Lavra thanked her and returned to the bridge. The ship hummed around her as it tore through fold space. She wondered what Queen Xylara was doing at that moment. If her people still had hope, if the Cythurian world still stood in her royal chamber, Queen Xylara watched the Voidborn ships press closer to the planetary shields. Each impact made the dome above her shudder. Pieces of crystal occasionally broke free and shattered on the floor. General Kraz entered, his movements stiff with exhaustion. "The shields are at 28%, Your Majesty. We've moved all civilians to the underground shelters." "And our fleet?" she asked. "The remaining ships are in defensive formation, but ... double quote, he hesitated. "Speak freely, Kraz. Even if the humans received our message, even if they decided to help, they cannot possibly reach us in time." "Their technology," they responded. Kraz, Xylara interrupted. "They received our message and they responded. They said help is coming." The general's antennae drooped in sympathy. "Your Majesty, the distance is too great. It would take them years to reach us, even at their fastest speeds." Xylara turned away. "Perhaps they have technologies we don't know about. Much can change in 200 cycles." Kraz said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. He believed she was clinging to false hope. A sudden alarm blared through the chamber. The general rushed to the communication panel. "The Voidborn are concentrating their attack on Section 12 of the shield. They found a weakness." Xylara closed her multifaceted eyes briefly. "Divert power from the other sections. We must hold until..." A massive boom shook the entire palace. Xylara stumbled, catching herself on a crystal column. When she looked up, a crack had appeared in the dome above. "They've breached the outer atmosphere," Kraz reported grimly. "Our ships are engaging, but ... He didn't need to finish. They both knew what would happen next. At the edge of the Cytherian system, reality rippled and tore. 3 ships emerged from fold space, their hulls glowing with residual energy. On the bridge of the horizon, Lavra gripped her command chair as the ship stabilized. "Status report. All systems functioning," Diane reported from the science station. "Fold space drive is offline. It'll need time to recharge." "Defender and Discovery have arrived safely," Kevin added from communications. Jack Nelson at tactical tensed suddenly. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures ahead. Consistent with the Voidborn data we received." Lavra stood on screen. The view screen showed a star system under siege. A blue-green planet was surrounded by a faint shield that flickered weakly in places. Dark, shifting masses surrounded it, the Voidborn fleet. They resembled black smoke with occasional flashes of purple lightning within. As the crew watched, one section of the planetary shield flared and dimmed. "They're breaking through," Lavra realized. "Time to arrival at the planet?" 17 minutes at maximum thrust, the helmsman replied. "Too long," Lavra muttered. She hit the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, battle stations, prepare for emergency maneuvers." She opened a channel to the other ships. Change of plans. "The Cytherians are under active attack. Paul, move the Defender ahead at maximum speed. Draw as many Voidborn away from the planet as you can. Susan, the Discovery will follow and gather data on their attack patterns. The Horizon will attempt to reach the surface and make contact with Queen Xylera." "Understood," both captains replied. Lavra turned to Kevin. "Send a message to the Cytherians. Tell them to hold on. The cavalry has arrived." The 3 Earth ships accelerated into the system. Ahead, the Voidborn detected them and several broke away from the planet to investigate this new threat. "They've seen us," Jack reported. 8 Voidborn vessels on intercept course. Lavra nodded grimly. "So much for the element of surprise. Red alert, all weapons ready. Let's show these Voidborn what humans can do." The Defender surged forward, its weapons systems powering up as it raced toward the Voidborn. Captain Paul Martinez stood calmly on his bridge, giving orders in a steady voice. "Target the lead Voidborn vessel. All weapons full spread," he commanded. The Defender fired. Beams of energy and explosive projectiles cut through space. The Voidborn ship, a churning mass of dark energy, absorbed the first few hits. Then it shuddered and pulled back. "Direct hit," Paul's tactical officer reported, "but minimal damage. They're adapting to our weapons already. Keep firing." "Change frequencies on every shot," Paul ordered. "Let's keep them guessing." The Defender continued its assault, drawing more Voidborn away from the planet. Behind it, the Discovery scanned the enemy ships, gathering vital data on their composition and behavior. Meanwhile, the Horizon pushed toward the planet, trying to slip past the distracted Voidborn. 2 Voidborn ships on intercept course, Jack warned on the Horizon's bridge. "They're fast." Captain Lavra Bennett nodded grimly. "Evasive maneuvers. We need to reach that planet." The Horizon swerved and rolled, avoiding the grasping tendrils of dark energy that reached for them. One tendril brushed against the ship's shields, causing them to flicker. "Shield power down to 87% from just that touch," Diane reported, eyes wide. "They're literally feeding on our energy." Lavra opened a channel to the Discovery. "Susan, please tell me you're getting something useful." Captain Susan Baker's voice came through clearly. "We are. The Voidborn are vulnerable right after they feed. There's a moment when they have to process the energy they've absorbed. If you hit them then, you can disrupt their structure." Lavra relayed this information to the Defender. Paul's ship immediately changed tactics, allowing a Voidborn to touch its shields briefly before firing all weapons at the exact spot. The Voidborn ship convulsed, its dark mass splitting apart before slowly reforming. "It worked," Paul reported. "Not destroyed, but definitely hurt it." The battle continued as the horizon pushed closer to the planet. Through breaks in the fighting, they could see the planet's surface. The blue-green world had large crystal cities visible even from orbit. Many were damaged, some were burning. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface," Kevin announced. "It's weak but clear." On screen, Lavar ordered, the image of Queen Xylera appeared. Her chamber was shaking around her, crystal fragments falling from the ceiling. "You came?" she said simply, her translator converting her clicks and pheromones into English. "After all these millennia, humanity remembered." "We're here to help," Lavra assured her. "We need to get our ship through your shields," Xylera nodded. "I'm sending shield frequencies now. There is a landing area near the royal palace that is still intact." The transmission cut off as another explosion rocked the Queen's chamber. "We've got the coordinates and shield frequencies," Kevin confirmed. "Take us in," Lavra ordered. "And contact the Defender and Discovery. Tell them to hold the Voidborn off as long as they can." The horizon pushed forward, slipping through a section of the Cythurian shields that rippled to allow them passage. As they descended toward the surface, they saw the full extent of the damage. Once beautiful crystal towers lay shattered. Fires burned across the landscape. Cythurian ships, small compared to the human vessels, fought desperately against Voidborn. That had broken through the shields, they landed in a large plaza near the royal palace. Lavra assembled a team including Medical Officer Olivia, Science Officer Diane, and several security personnel. "Standard gravity breathable atmosphere," Diane reported as they prepared to exit, "though the air has more oxygen than Earth normal." "Stay alert," Lavra warned. "We don't know if any Voidborn have reached the surface." They stepped out onto Cythurian soil. The air smelled sweet, like honey and cinnamon. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making their movements feel bouncy and strange. A group of Cythurians approached. They walked on 6 legs, their bodies covered in iridescent exoskeletons that shimmered in the light of their 3 suns. 4 arms extended from their upper bodies, and delicate wings were folded against their backs. Their heads featured large, multifaceted eyes and moving antennae. General Kraz led the group. He stopped before Lavra and raised his upper arms in what appeared to be a greeting. "Captain Bennett, I am General Kraz, Chief Defender of Queen Xylera. Thank you for coming to our aid." Lavra nodded respectfully. "We received your Queen's message. Humanity remembers its debts." The ground shook as another section of the shield failed. In the distance, a dark shape descended from the sky, a Voidborn breaching the planet's defenses. "We must hurry to the palace," Kraz urged. "The Queen awaits you in the war chamber." They moved quickly through crystal streets. Cythurian civilians watched from doorways, their alien faces impossible to read, but their body language suggesting a mixture of fear and hope. The royal palace was a massive structure of blue-green crystal that reached toward the sky. Parts of it were damaged, with entire sections missing from the upper levels. They entered through a grand doorway and were led deep inside to a fortified chamber. Queen Xylera waited there, surrounded by advisors and technicians monitoring screens that showed the battle in orbit. She was larger than the other Cythurians, her wings more colorful, her exoskeleton adorned with intricate patterns that seemed to glow from within. She approached Lavra with a grace that belied the desperate situation. "Captain Bennett, you have our eternal gratitude for answering our call. Your ancestors helped mine survive the Ice Age," Lavra replied. "We're here to return the favor." Xylera gestured to a large table in the center of the room where a holographic display showed the battle. The Defender and Discovery were holding their own, but more Voidborn were breaking away from the fight to attack the planet directly. "Your ships fight bravely," Xylera said, "but the Voidborn are too many. They have consumed 12 of our worlds already, growing stronger with each life force they absorb." "We've discovered they have a vulnerability after feeding," Lavra told her, "and our science vessel believes they exist partially in another dimension." Science Minister Vex, an elderly Cythurian with an almost transparent exoskeleton, stepped forward. "Yes, we have observed this as well. They exist between dimensions, which is why physical weapons have limited effect. Diane brought out her data pad. If we could force them fully into one dimension or the other, we could defeat them. Vex finished, his antennae quivering with excitement. But we lack the technology to affect dimensional barriers on such a scale. Lavra and Diane exchanged glances. We might have something that could work, Lavra said. Our fold space drive? It creates a temporary bridge between points in space by folding dimensions. Vex's multifaceted eyes seemed to brighten. If we could modify it to create a dimensional pocket instead, we could trap the Voidborn inside, Diane concluded. For the first time since they arrived, Queen Xylara's posture changed, her wings lifting slightly. Then there is hope after all. Time was running out. The planetary shields were failing in multiple sectors, and more Voidborn were breaking through to the surface. In orbit, the Defender had taken heavy damage, one of its engine nacelles glowing red from repeated Voidborn attacks. The Discovery continued to gather data while staying out of the worst fighting. Inside the Cythurian war chamber, humans and Cythurians worked side by side, racing against time. Engineer Frank Wilson from the Discovery had been shuttled down to the surface to help modify the fold space drive. The principle is sound, Frank explained, his hands moving over the holographic display. Instead of creating a tunnel through space, we reconfigure the drive to create a pocket dimension. The Voidborn get pulled in, we seal it behind them. But we still need to lure them to a single location, Lavra pointed out. They're spread throughout the system. Queen Xylara stepped forward, her wings catching the light. The Voidborn are drawn to concentrated life energy. That is why they attacked our worlds. That is what they feed on. Science Minister Vex nodded, his thin limbs trembling with either age or excitement. If we could create a sufficiently powerful energy source, they would be unable to resist it. What about the fold space drive itself? Diane suggested. It puts out an enormous energy signature when activated. Frank frowned, using the drive as bait. That could work, but the ship carrying it would be at the center of the trap. They'd be pulled into the pocket dimension along with the Voidborn. A heavy silence fell over the room. Captain Lavara exchanged glances with her officers. The plan required a sacrifice. The Discovery is the logical choice, came Susan Baker's voice over the communication system. She had been listening from orbit. We're the science vessel. We have the technical expertise to make sure the trap works properly. Susan, Lavra began. It's the right call, Lavra, Susan interrupted. The Defender is too damaged to make it back without help. The Horizon is your command. The Discovery. We'll do this. Queen Xylora's antennae quivered with emotion. Your people would sacrifice themselves for ours? Not necessarily, Frank said, still studying the plans. If we time it perfectly, the ship could activate the drive and then use emergency transporters. To evacuate the crew, it would be close, but possible. Lavra nodded. Make it happen. How long will the modifications take? 4 hours, Frank replied. Maybe 3 if everything goes perfectly. The shields won't last that long, General Kraz warned. Lavra tapped her communication badge. Paul, can the Defender hold the line? For 3 more hours? We'll make it happen, came Paul's determined reply. But we'll need help. The Horizon should rejoin the fight. Lavra turned to Queen Xylora. What about your remaining ships? They will fight until the end, Xylora promised. As will I. Lavra raised an eyebrow. Your Majesty? I will not ask others to risk their lives while I hide in safety, the Queen said firmly. My people draw strength from their Queen. I will lead the final defense of our world. Outside, another explosion rocked the palace. Crystal dust rained down from the ceiling. They're getting closer, Kraz warned. Lavra made her decision. Diane, Olivia, stay here and help with the modifications. I'm taking the Horizon back up to support the Defender. The next 3 hours were the most intense battle any of them had ever experienced. The Horizon rejoined the fight in orbit, coordinating with the remaining Cythurian ships to protect the Discovery as it prepared for its crucial role. On the surface, humans and Cythurians worked frantically to modify the fold space drive. Queen Xylora joined her fighters in the city, her presence boosting morale as they fought to hold back the Voidborn that had reached the ground. Her telepathic abilities helped coordinate the defense, while her royal guards kept her safe from direct attack. In orbit, the Discovery finished its preparations. Captain Susan Baker addressed her crew one last time. "We all knew the risks when we joined the Federation," she told them. "Today we have the chance to save not one but two civilizations. The Voidborn would eventually reach Earth if left unchecked. Remember your training. Stick to the evacuation plan. We can do this." The Discovery moved away from the planet, powering up its modified fold space drive. The energy signature it produced was enormous, pulsing outward in waves that reached across the system. The effect was immediate. Voidborn ships broke away from their attacks on the planet and the other vessels, drawn irresistibly toward the energy source. Like moths to a flame, they converged on the Discovery. "It's working," Paul reported from the damaged Defender. "They're taking the bait." Lavra watched from the Horizon's bridge, her heart pounding. "Susan, don't wait too long. Get your people out of there." 30 seconds until critical mass," Susan replied calmly. "We're ready." The Voidborn surrounded the Discovery, their dark masses merging as they prepared to feast on the enormous energy source. Inside the ship, the fold space drive hummed. Louder, reaching its peak. "Now," Susan ordered. The fold space drive activated, but in reverse. Instead of creating a tunnel through space, it folded reality inward, creating a pocket dimension. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear around the Discovery. Emergency transporters activated, beaming crew members to the waiting Horizon and Defender. On the planet's surface, Cythurians and humans watched the sky as a massive distortion appeared among the stars. The Voidborn, caught in the energy field, were pulled into the growing rift. They tried to escape, dark tendrils reaching outward, but the pull was too strong. "The dimensional pocket is stable," Diane reported from the surface. "It's working." One by one, the Voidborn disappeared into the rift. The Discovery, at the center of it all, began to break apart as the forces tore at its hull. "Transport complete," Kevin reported on the Horizon's bridge. "We got most of them, but ... But what?" Lavara demanded. "We're still missing 23 crew members, including Captain Baker. Their signals were lost in the interference." Lavra stared at the view screen in shock. The Discovery was almost gone now, disappearing into the dimensional pocket it had created. With a final flash of light, the rift closed, taking the Voidborn fleet with it. Silence fell across the Cythurian system. The few remaining Voidborn ships, cut off from their main force, fled into deep space. On the planet's surface, Queen Xylora stood among her people, watching the sky clear of enemies for the first time in months. She reached out telepathically, touching the minds of her subjects across the planet. A wave of relief and joy spread through the collective consciousness of the Cythurians. 2 days later, humans and Cythurians gathered in the partially repaired Grand Hall of the Royal Palace. Queen Xylora, her wings fully extended in a display of formal ceremony, addressed the assembled crews of the Horizon and Defender. 15,000 years ago, a Cythurian exploration vessel found primitive humans struggling through an ice age. We helped because it was right. Today, you return that kindness 1,000-fold. She approached Captain Lavra, who stood at the front of the human delegation. In her upper hands, the Queen held a crystal that glowed with inner light. "With this crystal, I declare an eternal alliance between our peoples. The Cythurian Empire and Earth will stand together against any threat, now and forever." Lavra accepted the crystal. "We honor this alliance. Earth will never forget the sacrifice made here, both Cythurian and human." As repairs began on both fleets, humans and Cythurians worked side by side. Two species separated by vast differences in biology and culture, but united by a bond that had endured across 15,000 years of cosmic history. And somewhere, in a pocket dimension sealed away from normal space, the Voidborn raged in eternal hunger, never again to threaten the alliance forged in battle and sacrifice.